All right. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera and a very good day I bid to all viewers. Ladies and gentlemen, before we begin the session, please allow me to brief you on some few housekeeping notes. The session will take approximately an hour, and I'd like to seek your cooperation to kindly mute your microphone to avoid unnecessary audio interruption while the session is in progress. I will keep on reminding everyone on this matter again during the session. At the end of the session, I will allow a few questions to our guest speaker, and I would humbly request the question to be typed, written in the chat box column. The admin will select the question to be posted to our speakers, and hopefully at the end of the session, we'll use this time to respond to your question if you have any. Thank you very much for your kind cooperation. Right, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to be the moderator for today's session. This is actually our second international online professional development program organized by the English Study Unit at Ipoh Teacher Training Institute. We had our first international PD session early this year, and today we meet again virtually for another interesting topic with our partners from Down Under. It's from Australia. I am Muhammad Yunus, and on behalf of the organizing committee, I would like to extend my warm welcome to all viewers participating in today's web-based seminar session. To all of you, we appreciate you taking time off your busy schedule and join us today. I believe that we will learn something new today, inshallah. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce our speaker for today's session, who's going to share the Australian experience, rethinking education post-pandemic COVID-19. Our speakers for today's session is Dr. Nur Suharti Abdul Karim. Assalamualaikum, Doctor.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullah.
A Malaysian, born in Kelantan and currently stationed in Monash University Clayton. Is it Clayton Campus?
Clayton Campus, yes.
Yeah, okay, Clayton Campus, Australia.
Clayton Campus.
Interestingly enough, some of us here would actually know you because before this, you were actually attached to IPG, Tunku Baidun. Yes, Tunku Baidun. Doctor, you are from Kuantan or from Kelantan? From Kuantan, is it?
Kuantan, sorry.
Oh, Kuantan. Excuse me.
Yes. That's fine. That's okay.
You were attached to IPG Tunku Baidun before you moved to UPSI. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Suharti holds a PhD in English and as International Language, EIL, from Monash University, Australia. She has more than 20 years of experience in various capacities and roles including program coordinator, lecturers, teacher trainer, and also curriculum developers in several tertiary institutions in both Malaysia and Australia. Her main interests are actually in the field of pragmatic, meaning of language, TESOL and EIL. She is currently involved in teaching undergraduate and postgraduate students at Monash College, Australia. Ladies and gentlemen, to start off, we actually have been shocked by the COVID-19 pandemic, which has affected not just the economic, the health, as well as the educational system worldwide, leading to a near total closure of schools, colleges, and universities. And most governments around the world have actually temporarily taken steps to close educational institutions as an attempt to contain the spread of COVID-19. And as of June 2020, that was last month, approximately 1.725 billion learners are currently affected due to the closure of schools as well as educational institutions in response to the pandemic. And according to UNICEF, the monitoring unit, 134 countries are currently implementing nationwide closure of schools and also educational institutes, which actually impact more than 98.5% of the world students population. Right. Putting this into our context of discussion, I'd like to pose this question to Dr. Suharti. Can you share a bit how does the Australian Ministry of Education handle the issue of COVID-19 in terms of ensuring that students will continuously receive education as usual? What are actually the challenges to education in the Australian context? Doctor.
Okay, thank you very much, Encik Muhammad Yusni. Assalamualaikum and salam sejahtera. It's now afternoon in Melbourne actually, so good afternoon from Melbourne. We are still under lockdown, second time round, would you believe it? Numbers have not stabilized, so it's rather high. Today as well in the last few days. So all of us are back to remote teaching. It's been quite challenging for everyone concerned, as Yusni has actually outlined just now. So I'm just going to share with you a few slides just to give you a rough picture of what we have here down under in Melbourne specifically. Okay. Let me just share that. Can you all see my screen?
Yes. Okay.
Yes?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Right. Okay. So my name is Suharti Abdul Karim. I have been teaching in Monash College in the last 5 years or so. So it's been quite challenging for everyone in this pandemic because there's been lots of disruption. Now, as on 19 July, for instance, the UNESCO statistics on disrupted learning for this pandemic has been more than 1 billion. And then that's about 60.9% of total enrolled learners. Okay, so it's a huge impact on the education system globally, and I think everyone's feeling it as well. And unfortunately, a lot of specialists have said that this is not going to go away very soon. So the virus is going to be a part of us until the vaccine arrives. So elimination is very unlikely. So in other words, we need to learn to live with it. So it looks as if whatever challenges that we're facing now, it will be continuing for at least another year or so, or something like that. Okay. So some of the challenges to the education, right, as I think it's quite synonymous to what everyone's facing back home as well in Malaysia, is of course the immediate switch to remote learning. And then there's also the lack of support for teachers because this is quite sudden. Yes, so putting in the support for teachers has been quite challenging. It's been quite problematic as well, putting together the online platforms, the resources, and so on. As what I will explain later, that remote teaching in terms of COVID-19 is not the same as online teaching.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's issues of digital divide and equity as well. As you can, I think you experience this with your students too, access to resources, access to internet and so on. Different parts of the country would have different access to the resources. And then, and also the period of learning loss. What we have planned earlier to do for our classes may be disrupted, and a part of that learning will be lost as well, a little bit, well, most of it anyway. And then there'll be things like students who may drop out of learning because they are anxious They're also dealing with emotional issues, the uncertainty, and so on, and that impacts on the health and well-being of the students.
Okay.
Okay, so the Victoria Department of Education, Melbourne is in the state of Victoria.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so what the department has done is that they have partnered with Telstra. Telstra is a mobile communication company.
Okay.
One of the first things that they did was to provide 1,000 4G dongle devices with 4G internet access, and 4,000 SIM cards that provide this 4G internet access to students.
Okay.
For families who do not have access to the internet, and these were given free of charge. This was given, I think, during the first lockdown that we had.
Right.
Yeah. So it will be provided for the next 6 months, and students who do not have a laptop can borrow from the schools to be used throughout the remote learning period. Now, also in Victoria, we have this bring your own device policy prior to the pandemic. So all students, most of the students would have already owned a laptop each, and they were required to bring to the schools, to every day to schools, because particularly the secondary school students, because a lot of learning is being done online in schools as well.
Okay.
So these are for students who do not have access to laptop and so on. They were given laptops. Now, if the students do not have access, internet access at home, the students may receive materials that do not require online access, either by mail or collecting them from school. So schools will cater for individualized and personalized learning as well. So it all depends on the circumstances that the students are facing. And then, of course, technical support are provided to parents by the education department, because, as you know, parents are very anxious about this as well. They're being locked down with their children, and then they would have to homeschool their own children and so on. Okay, so that's some of the things that some of the responses that the Victorian Department of Education has carried out, and on their websites as well, they've got clear information to parents on what to do and so on, some advice and the resources that the parents can use at home to support home learning for their own children. And they would also have hotlines, open hotlines for parents to actually help with that. Yeah. So that's something that one of the things that the department has actually done in terms of giving out support when it comes to remote learning. Yeah. And also the holidays have been extended, because, especially in the second lockdown, because the directive for the second lockdown was given out in the second week of the school holiday. So they had a 1 week extended holiday to get themselves ready for the second round of remote learning. Now, but years 11 and 12 who are facing public exams this year, they would have to do face-to-face learning. Only the younger students, the preparatory classes to year 10 will be doing remote learning.
I see. Yes.
So that's the kind of response in terms of schools that the Victorian Department of Education has actually given out.
Is there any specific time for the second lockdown? Until when?
Well, at the moment, because the numbers have been fluctuating, so it goes up and down. There is no certainty. The original plan was to go up to August, middle of August. That's the current directive from the state government. So it depends. If it gets any worse, or if the numbers don't go down, we're looking at a longer period.
Okay. Yeah. Same.
Yeah.
It's about the same very much in Malaysia, I think. But we are about to reopen schools in a week time. But anyway, you can
Yes.
continue. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. We're hoping that we could actually open up schools as well, because my college was planning to actually open on 1st of July, but doesn't look as if it's going to open anytime soon.
Right.
Yeah, but of course, as much as it provides anxiety for parents and students, I'm sure teachers also are anxious as well, because we need to adapt to these drastic changes. Yes, so one of the things that was difficult was because we need to move across modalities in terms of teaching. Okay, so what we used to have things like the face-to-face, for instance.
Right.
Okay, so moving from that particular mode, for instance, to something which is entirely online is very challenging for everyone concerned, for the teachers concerned, for the administrative, and so on. Now, if you look at this particular diagram, for instance, these are the the modalities, the teaching modalities that are that some schools or some institutions may have adopted. Okay, jumping from, if you were to jump from A to E, for instance, without any knowledge of digital instructions, is going to be problematic. But if your institution have got exposures to online digital tools and digital instructions, then you'll find that the transition to remote teaching is a little bit smoother.
Right.
So what my college have got was that prior to the pandemic was that we had a highly flexible method of instruction, whereby we integrate quite a bit of digital learning into with the face-to-face. But even so, we found it a bit of a challenge too. Putting everything, some of the resources cannot be used online. We had to change the instructions across the board. We had quite a number of students who are offshore as well, because Monash College have got quite a number of international students. My own class, I had Chinese students, Vietnamese, Korean, Saudi students as well. Some of them are offshore. They are not here in Melbourne. So you can imagine the access to the internet for in their respective countries. So transforming that was a challenge as well. So transforming some of the courseware into entirely online. But we had good support from the e-learning team as well as the university.
Right.
So, and then of course, there also are the issues like student engagement issues as well that we needed to iron out. So these are the challenges. These are the challenges that we had to face, and so on.
Okay, Doctor. Okay, you want to continue on this one? This is something quite interesting to look at.
Right. Okay. Did you want to? Okay. Right. Yeah. Well, I'll just continue a little bit. Yeah. Just continue a little bit.
Okay.
Okay. So, well, I do. I hear that the Malaysian teachers are also doing a good job. Using Google Classroom as well. Yes.
Yeah. Correct.
That's excellent. That's fabulous. That's really good. Keep on doing that. Okay, if you do have a good hand in digital tools and then doing online instructional design and so on, you need to keep on at it, because it doesn't look as if it's going to go away. to actually use those skills. Okay, so one of the things that I think we need to actually move on from there, from this particular experience, is to adopt the blended learning. Okay, we can't run away from this. We cannot go back to face. I think it's virtually impossible. Okay, because we have to be prepared for this virus to recur. If there's another pandemic or if there's another disruption to learning, we at least we have, everyone is more prepared in terms of skills. Okay, so these are the 6 common forms of blended learning that you can try. Now, I'm not saying that this is not an exhaustive list. Blended learning comes in different forms, different integration and so on, various integrations. Some literatures go to about 12 types of blended learning. I'm just giving you the 6 common ones here. Okay, so there's one face-to-face driver, rotation, flex, online lab, self-blend, and online driver. Okay, so, and these are some of the explanations there. What we had was a mix of quite a number of things, okay, because we also did flipped learning. We also did flexi, right? We have not tried a rotation, okay. Now with flexible learning is that we have one online platform. I think most Malaysian teachers use Google Classroom. Monash College uses Moodle. And then teachers provide, we provide the on-site support, in-person tutoring, and then in small group sessions. But on top of that, students are also supposed to work asynchronously. So they need to do things outside the classrooms as well. Yeah, so that has helped in terms of promoting their own digital literacy and so on. Yeah. Now, the thing is, with what we have at the moment, what we're doing now is actually emergency remote teaching. Okay, I mean, we are still putting, as we go along, still putting things together, right? We are not actually doing online teaching per se, because online teaching is intentional and deliberate. Online teaching is actually, the materials are actually prepared for online teaching. What we have at the moment, I think all of you will agree, is that it is a form of emergency remote teaching whereby we need to actually transform a lot of the materials that we used to have to be delivered online. Okay, so yes, so a lot of these things are fairly new to us as well. Okay. But there's also, was there anything that, okay, so I'm just going to clear up the blended learning first. Okay, now I just want to introduce to you a new form of blended learning.
Right.
It's called high flex. Okay. Yeah, so this particular type of learning, right, it's fairly recent. It's only been around for a few years, I think about 2 or 3 years back. Okay. Now it has been tried and tested in mainly in US and Canada. Okay. I think there's only one university in Australia which has tried this out. It's called high flex. Okay. So high flex. Yes. It's now this particular mode of this particular style of blended learning is tried out in tertiary, mainly at the moment in tertiary institutions in universities. Okay. And a few American universities are trying this out as well when they reopen in August, which is next month, really. Yeah, so it's not entirely online, and it's not entirely face-to-face either. What happens is that the face-to-face and online learning are both done at the same time. So students who are remote who are online will also participate at the same time as the face-to-face students. Yeah, so it combines both the online and the classroom-based learning. Okay, so it takes it to another level of flexibility.
Okay.
The course materials are offered in traditional and online formats. So it needs a little extra preparation on the teacher's part, I'm afraid. Homework for us if we were to do this, we were to structure this. Okay, basically because both your online students and your face-to-face students will be there at the same time. And students can choose to take the class either online, in the classroom, or both.
Okay.
Okay. So for example, for instance, so if your class is on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, okay, each time Group A will, let's say Group A will be face-to-face, Group B and C will be doing remote, it's online, and so on. Okay? So if you can look at that. Right. Some of the things here, some of the features of HiFlex is that the course, the tools, and the channels are organized to reflect that structure. Okay. So all participants must have equitable access. That means everyone must have the same access to the learning resources, the instructor, and one another. And then also, of course, both teachers, the instructor, and as well as the students would need to have, would need to be fairly skillful with the digital tools. Okay. All educational resources must be online. Students need to participate in chat space along with a live video of the session, a separate screen in the physical classroom, or a fixed URL for the chat stream. You would need, perhaps if you're doing this in classrooms, you will need to actually have someone who is fairly good in technology to be there to help you out. Okay, because you will need a few hardwares there in your classrooms. And then guidance about the HiFlex approach, course protocols, technology supports, and best engagement practice. Okay, so instructors and students must ensure that online participants are included in the discussion and other activities, because sometimes, although we are in classrooms, we tend to forget, we only see the students in front of us, but we tend to forget that we also have students who are online at the same time, and that's quite of a drawback in terms of teaching. So that's the kind of structure that's or the hardwares that you probably need to have if you were to conduct HiFlex classrooms.
Okay?
Yeah, so it does look as if it requires a bit of investment on the technology. Okay.
It's a lot of investment.
Yes, it's a lot. And that's just one classroom, mind you. Okay? That's just one classroom. Okay, so you imagine if you have a few more classrooms. But the good things are, there are good things though related to HiFlex, that it provides a flexibility, because at this point of time, okay, my college is closed, so we can't go there. We can access everything. We can access everything online, but there are other facilities there that we can't access. That we can't be on campus. So a lot of research activities and classes are disrupted and so on. So with HiFlex, you can actually probably get it done despite the disruption. Yeah, and there's also multiple pathways for students to access and participate in learning. So that means there's not only one way to do it. Students can choose either online or being face-to-face. It reduces the barriers to enrollment and enable more students to achieve the educational goal. That means That means students who have commitments outside the classes. As you know, some tertiary students, they would have part-time jobs. Some of them are married and so on. So that actually reduced the barriers for that. And then also, so if you provide both opportunities for online as well as face-to-face, it gives them the flexibility for them to learn. However, the disadvantages is that, of course, a high investment.
Investment will be from the university, from the institution?
Yes. Well, investment could be from the universities. If you have research grants, like Australian universities, they're given quite a large amount of research grants and so on. You can buy these technology through the grants as well. Yes, so it doesn't necessarily mean from the government. It could also be from the corporate companies. So if they're willing to actually practice their corporate social responsibility, so that would be good.
We're hoping for many of those types of like corporate.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. That would be good. That would actually project their marketing ability further as well, I think. And also but in terms of instructional design as well, the technology and the curriculum must align. There is no point. The lessons, that means, must integrate both modality, face-to-face as well as online. So, and the learning must be equivalent for all students. You cannot have one thing for online students and a different thing for your face-to-face students. That will not be equivalent. And instructors must be comfortable and effective as synchronous teaching. That means using a lot of apps, for instance. Not only that, you've got to know how to use the hardwares as well. And then also more responsibility for learning on students. That means students need to be taught self-directed learning and to also self-regulate their learning. And some students may not have this maturity to actually go through these high-flex classrooms. Yeah.
All right. Interesting.
Yes.
Because these two words could be new to us. High flex and blend flex could be very much new to us.
Yes, it is fairly new around the globe as well. So don't worry. I mean, the Americans are also, the American universities are also struggling because they've got high numbers of COVID-19 cases. So opening up their campuses are very risky. So they're looking at a lot of ways to actually progress in terms of teaching from this pandemic.
Right. Thank you very much, Doctor. I think you have already talked a bit on how your colleagues actually cope, or your students actually cope with the remote learning challenges. There's another one that here we look at the pandemic as to be very much a global concern. Where teachers need to be aware of lots of things, and one aspect is actually on teachers' competency in handling online teaching. There are teachers who are capable to do that, but there are also teachers who are struggling in doing it. So, in your thought, are they prepared? What about the students? If the teachers have prepared all this, are the students ready to receive education? What about the facilities in terms of, very likely the internet? Can you share with us all this aspect in terms of how Australia handle it?
I can only one of the things that they've done in schools was that to actually provide them with the dongles and so on, because that would be one of the things for them to actually access the internet and so on. That's for schools. But for my college, what we did was, I think, because a lot of things were already online and so on. So most of the teaching staff were already well versed with how to handle the apps, the online materials, the LMS, and so on. And we were also exposed to, we were also trained, I think we had about 2 weeks intensive training on how to actually sharpen the teacher competencies further. Because we were aware that all of the students we need to go online and so on, and we were also expecting new students who were offshore because they were not allowed to enter Australia, so they needed to actually be outside Australia, be in China or in their respective countries and so on. So we were trained, we were given quite a number of things to work with. One of the things was to look at it online teacher competencies. Sorry. Let me just go back. Okay, so we looked at this as well. So the online teacher competencies, because nobody has any experience on emergency remote teaching, okay, like what we're experiencing now. So the nearest on teacher competencies matrix that we could that we could get our hands on were the online teacher competencies. So these are roughly the things that we needed to have in terms of teaching online. Now the ones in green are the ones that keeps recurring, apart from the other common ones like pedagogy, instructional design. Those are all related to teaching. Yeah, but the ones that we needed to actually focus on further are the technological skills as well as the social skills, because we're fully aware of the isolation that online teaching, online learning could bring to the students, and we were specifically told to actually, look at these things. So the kind of things that we looked at was, of course, the technological skills. Now, if you you would probably need to have, training on how to actually handle the LMS, how to actually handle the video conferencing platforms such as Google Meet, such as what we're doing now. So you need to actually use the multimedia technologies. Now, a lot of research on online teaching says that if you could use a variety of multimedia technologies, use a variety of apps and so on, that makes the online learning more interesting. Integrate a few games into your teaching as well. That would actually make it more interesting for the students, and that would sustain the students' attention further. And also looking at the statistics on students' satisfaction, it really shows on this as well. It really reflects on this as well. And you can't really, nowadays, you can't really have online teaching without knowing how to use the technology. So I think teachers need to be very adaptive in that sense and quickly adapt to the emerging technologies. That would be one of the one of the competencies that teachers need to have. Yeah, and then just giving you one of the things, one of the a list of technological skills that you need to teachers need to have. And also, these are the tech tools that you probably need to have in your repertoire. No, I'm calling it your tech repertoire. Okay. Yeah, well, Yes, nowadays repertoire does not only consist of resources that we develop on paper. It's these things, knowing how to use these things.
Yeah.
Okay, so these are the things that you probably need to have, or maybe I'm not saying that you need to know all of them,
Right.
but yeah, a few of them will actually get you through this remote teaching.
Right.
Okay, so we've used a majority of this in my college. We would use Zoom for video conferencing, and our LMS is Moodle. For collaboration, it's very good to actually use Flipgrid and Padlet and interactive whiteboards like Miro and so on. Yeah, so these are the things that you can use, in other words. So if you could actually handle half of this, you're good to go, really, for remote teaching. Okay, so yeah.
Half of it would be still a lot.
Yeah, that's right. Yes. I mean, like, yeah, it does look, there are a lot of other things as well which you can use. I mean, there are a lot of other apps as well. Mind you, a lot of tech companies are actually putting it out there, their new inventions and so on. So it looks as if like a huge competition out there for online companies, developing all these apps and so on, coming out with new products. So you have got to be careful that when you choose the tech tools, that choose the ones that would work for your class.
Right.
Do not get into this hype, for instance, okay? Just because one person does use Miro as interactive whiteboards, you want to try it as well. Try it out first with your class. If it doesn't work, try something else.
Explain everything.
Yeah. So that's right. So, and then, there's one app called Explain Everything. It's quite good interactive whiteboard because you can you can put in, integrate video as well together with your teacher for that one, and you can record it. So it makes it easier for us to actually do, especially for students who do not have the regular internet access.
Doctor, if I can cut you just a bit, you see, these are what we have to sort of be good at. Our students will also be very much, we are hoping. But if you look into the context of, let's say, primary group or low secondary students, okay, how, I mean, do teachers need to collaborate with their parents maybe, or the guardians maybe?
Absolutely, yes. A lot of teachers here actually collaborate with their parents as well here. So they would have one platform where they can interact with parents called Compass. All of the materials, the resources, they share it on one platform. So it's like Moodle as well as Google Classroom, but it's for teachers and parents as well. Yes, and then for teachers to give ideas on what to do and so on. Now the whole thing is the foundation is that fundamental thing that you need to remember is that to be very flexible.
Right.
Yeah, because we have parents who are also working at the same time from home. So creating spaces in a house, in a home, for instance, for work, and then for homeschooling, and then for private space, that's a lot to navigate, and it puts a lot of anxiety on the parents and so on. So be very flexible, not only with the parents, not only with the students, also be flexible with yourselves.
I think the parents will also now have to take the role of teaching indirectly.
Yes, in a way, yes, because I find myself monitoring my son as well in terms of putting in homeworks, checking on the homeworks and as well. So I think a little bit of teaching your kids, telling parents that perhaps teach their kids a little bit on self-directed learning, things like how to schedule, how to put in the schedule, on doing things for school, doing things for home, and so on. And I think we need to relax on the demands a little bit. I know we are always concerned about finishing homework and so on, but with younger students, okay, with primary school students, with kindy students and so on, I don't think we can actually achieve that. To me, as long as they can actually do a little bit of the learning, because in Australia, for instance, the primary school syllabus is a little bit more relaxed in the sense that we are a little bit more practical, more hands-on learning, you know, a little bit of reading, okay, the literacy and the numeracy, although it's there, but we do it in more informal spaces, rather than formal instructions.
Doctor, it's interesting. I think we need to proceed. I would like to proceed to one more of this is rather crucial. We talk about education, and as teachers, we do worry about how we're going to assess students. And I believe that due to COVID-19, assessment would also be done online. So now the question here is this: how do we actually retain the integrity, the academic integrity, with the authenticity of online assessment?
Okay, right. That's a good question. You know, assessment is always everyone's favorite topic, that is. Okay. Everyone's asking as well. The first thing that we asked our program leader as well was that, what are we going to do with the assessments? Because there were things that we had, although we had it on in LMS, we had on normal courses, we would actually have it face-to-face in classrooms. Okay, so I'm just going to jump straight to what I've got for assessments. Okay, so let's see. Okay, right. Okay, right. Now, are we going to do it formative or summative? That's what you need to decide, first of all. Okay. Now, a lot of literature points out that formative assessment is a better solution during crisis. Okay. Specifically, continuous assessment for gauging ongoing progress by identifying learning strengths and weaknesses. So, so look at the formative assessments. Look at how the students have actually progressed. If you have got any progress, that any forms, any evidence of progress that they have done prior to the pandemic that you think can be used for as a part of the overall grade, for instance, then that's what you need to use. Okay, so, and it all depends on your learning outcomes as well. If your learning outcomes have changed because of this pandemic, then the assessment needs to change as well. I'll give you a very small example. We had oral presentation was one of the assessments. Okay, very small example. In our rubrics, in our assessment rubrics, what we need to check in oral assessment is the nonverbal gestures. Okay. So what we had in those nonverbal gestures are things like how the students make eye contact, how the students use their hands, how they use, you know, the space in front of them for presentations and so on. Obviously, this cannot be done online. Okay, if they're sharing if they're sharing it like what I'm doing now, sharing their screen, we can't see that. You see, so we took it out, or rather we actually modified it a little bit in the sense that we only had eye contact and avoid reading from notes. Under non-verbal gestures, you know, under that particular criteria. Okay, so that's just one small example. Okay, so it's I would say that more formative might be a better way to go rather than summative, because if, let's say, this virus, you go for another lockdown and the whole country needs to be on lockdown at the, at the same time, this will disrupt the large scale and the high stakes assessments that we normally do in physically. Yes. Okay. Now, another thing is that one of the ways that how we maintain academic integrity was on the LMS, there are security options. Yeah. I don't know about Google Classroom. I'm not very familiar with Google Classroom, but in Moodle, we had one particular assessment on writing, for instance. We had browser lockdowns. That means if they were to write 40 minutes, let's say, after 40 minutes, it shuts down. Okay, so it shuts down in that sense. And then,
I'm losing you, can't hear clearly. Oh, okay, yeah, okay, go ahead.
Okay, and then you have the exam time limits, of course. And then if you can randomize and scramble item sequence and answer choices, I think you can do this in LMS as well. Whereby one student you may jumble up the questions so that students do not actually, text to each other or something like that. Because if they were to do this remotely, that's one of the things that you need to actually maintain. Okay, and you also need monitoring. There are also exam proctoring platforms for online exams called Examity. Monash University uses Examity or Respondus. If you think about 3D, Facebook have got 3D videos, or something, 3D photos or something like that. It works something like that, where you can, where the camera can see the students' surroundings even when they're at home.
Okay.
Yeah, so that could work if you were to do high stakes exams, or should they are required to actually do the exams at home. Okay, so and then create multiple versions of exam papers to avoid cheating. Of course, you use Turnitin for detection tools, and of course, we dedicated, I think, about a few hours in our curriculum to teach students on academic integrity. Particularly at tertiary level and so on. So, so these are some of the things which you can use. Be flexible, I think. That's the whole idea. In the sense that, even the year 12 exams that the Australian Victorian students are going to face at the end of this year, the universities, because the year 12 exams produces the entrance exam and university entrance scores. They need to get a good score to enter the university, something similar to SPM. So some of the universities are thinking of actually being a little bit more flexible when it comes to the scores because of this COVID-19. They are fully aware that some students may have a considerable amount of learning loss.
Right.
Due to this. So that could be few things that you can look at in terms of maintaining integrity.
Hello, Doctor?
Hello, yes.
Okay. It's like, I'm not trying to stop you, but it's already like 11, over here it's actually 11:53. I got one last...
sorry. Okay, that's okay.
It's okay. I got one last question, which I think it will very much affect all teachers. Okay, is there any last word or to remind or to motivate us teachers here? What do we need to do to rethink the way of education when we talk about dealing with such pandemic?
Well, I would actually say you need to collaborate with other teachers.
Right.
You need continue with the professional learning, particularly if you think that you need more help in technology and so on. So that would be, you know, a better way to actually tackle this COVID-19, you know, teaching and beyond that. Definitely, the technological skills, you need to actually maintain that and then, you know, increase your knowledge on that, because that's going to ensure that you will get the student engagement that you need. And also, you know, collaborate with other teachers. You know, perhaps set up your, in each school, they probably need to have one e-learning team that will help you to support your, to give you support.
Right.
Yeah. So everyone is, yes?
I would also think that now, you know, like they should also collaborate among schools rather than just the teachers.
Exactly. Yes. Even at district level, I think you should. Now, everyone is in this together, in a sense that a professor who has got 30 years of experience teaching will find it difficult as well, and they're also looking around for help from people who know the technology better. You know what I mean? So you are not the only one in this. Everyone needs help, so do not be afraid to ask for it. Do not be afraid to collaborate with other people, communicate with other people, and so on.
All right.
See, that's the best thing to go. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Doctor. There are a few questions that we have gathered for you. Well, number one, there's a question here. I'm not so sure from whom exactly, but okay, is this the question goes like this: do you agree that we should actually change the mindset of distant learning?
Well, yes. I think if more so now than ever.
Okay.
You know, because we can't avoid it anymore. We need to move forward. Where we move forward, I think this pandemic has actually given us the opportunity to review things.
Right.
And something that we thought that online learning is going to be something of a future in Malaysia, but then it's here now. So we need to deal with it. We didn't think that distance learning is going to be around or it's going to be effective, but everyone is saying now, okay, we can see that there's some benefits to it. So more so now than ever, but integrate that with personalized learning as well, because different students would have different circumstances, and that's the challenge. Right.
The other question here goes like this, Doctor. Is it you talk about assessment, online assessment just now, when you talk about, you know, you need to do a bit of amendment to the rubric. So how about, the question is, how about if student upload the video? So the uploading of the video, will it actually give the overall, I would say, assessment to the presentation, like what you said just now?
You mean the oral present upload the video? Well, it depends on how you set the questions, because in Monash College, our oral presentations are always live. We always do it, synchronously. We don't do it. We don't allow students to actually video their presentations and so on. They need to actually do it as they come in. You see, so because I think that's more authentic. If you think about authenticity in assessments, that would be the authentic way to go for oral presentations. If they were to video it, then they would have an opportunity to practice several times, and then and so on. So it doesn't become authentic anymore in that sense.
I think we are actually at the end of the session. Believe it or not, you have been online for an hour. It's already 11:59 here. Any last word, Doctor, before we end?
Well, no last words, just, collaborate, communicate with each other. Okay, continue with the professional development and professional learning. We are all in this together. We are all doing a good job.
Right.
Okay,
right.
be kind to yourself. Okay, and stay safe.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Doctor. It has
no worries. All the very best.
a wonderful session. Hopefully, we'll see you some other times, inshallah.
Yeah, inshallah. Yes. Thank you for inviting.
Thank you very much. Right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much again for participating in this session. I hope that you have enjoyed. I believe you have. A gentle reminder to everyone to log into the SPL KPM website and register your attendance for the session. And at the same time, I believe that you also be earning your credit hours for participating in such a session. For quick, easy access, I hope that you can use the QR code and or the link provided. It will actually attach you straight to SPL KPM. Doctor, thank you very much. I'll see you all later. We will actually present for those who are viewing, we'll present you the posters again so that you can actually scan the QR code. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a pleasant day. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.